Good morning and welcome to Wednesday. Happy hump day, if we can say that. I'm Joe Jaquin, CEO of the Patriot Trading Group, at our toll-free number 800-951-0592. The website at allamericangold.com. And, for almost 25 years, we've been delivering gold and silver to the masses. And today it's gold. Gold is available. Call, place your order. Silver is unavailable. There is none anywhere. Then what's out there is you're looking at about an $8 premium today. So when you think about silver's now at $12, actually has been below $12 today. It's incredible to think about that. But again, there's a big difference between paper markets and physical markets. And really on the paper side, gold and silver are doing exactly what they're supposed to do, provide liquidity when there is none. And that's really what's happening. Nobody can sell, especially all this debt-laden paper. I know the central bank's in there buying up, trying to buy up everything, trying to pretend everything's normal. All of these companies are going out of business. And all of these unemployed people, I don't know what's going to happen. You had the Treasury Secretary talking about a 20% unemployment rate, and people better start to wake up. Yesterday in Phoenix, they shut down all the bars and restaurants in Phoenix yesterday, effective at 8 p.m. Last night, the unemployment website being bombarded this morning. Colorado is hoping to have their site stay up. Yesterday, their site crashed. New York site is crashed. I mean, all over the country. Tomorrow is jobless claims. And this isn't going to be the big one. The big one will start next week. But we're starting to see this picture emerge. The Dow had an up day yesterday on news of bailouts and spending. The latest was yesterday. It started with $850 billion. By the end of it, it was $1.2 trillion by the federal government. This morning, they're saying maybe $3 trillion. So we could have a budget deficit exceeding $4 trillion because the news keeps getting worse. The Dow is down about 1,250 points this morning, trying to stay right. It's right at 20,000 right now, and it's been fluctuating back and forth between 19,900 and 20,000. The S&P's down 127. The Nasdaq's down 300. Gold's down 30. Silver's down 43 right now at 1203. Crude oil down 15% at $22.92. Halliburton, listen, here comes the layoffs there. Halliburton today, a big announcement from them, furloughing workers. They're trying to, and I don't know if this hurts or helps, what they're trying to do is saying, okay, you get to work this week. Half of you get to work this week. The other half of you get to work next week. And the weeks you don't work, you don't get paid. But you get to keep your health benefits, right, which you got to pay for. But I don't know how that's going to work. You look at all these bars and restaurants closing, the same thing. Employers, they want to help their employees. These employees are part of their families. They want to try to give them some hours. And it may be to the point where, hey, if you don't get enough hours, you're better off taking the unemployment. And I think we're seeing that play out. But today we're going to talk more about Boeing. Boeing needs a bailout, and they need it in the next 48 hours. They need it, by this time Friday. Boeing needs a bailout from the government or they'll be insolvent. Remember, I've been warning you about Boeing. Their stock price is below $100. And the funny thing is I haven't seen and the mass layoffs and things of that Boeing should be doing. I haven't seen. Maybe they are, and I just haven't seen it. Like I said, so much news happening so very quickly. Company after company after company being downgraded. A lot of retailers now are just saying, you know what? Before they force us to do it, we're just going to shut down. New York just came out. They had over 1,000 new cases of the virus. New York now leading the way. There's talks that the Army has been involved. They're getting ready to come up with some makeshift hospital plans and whatnot. And obviously, as we talked about, if what Governor Cuomo said yesterday, that 19% of the people infected in New York need to be in the hospital because their cases are severe. There's just not enough hospital beds. I'm being told that is being worked on as they speak. But New York now is the latest, I guess, epicenter of what's happening here. Right now, the mayor of New York City, Mayor de Blasio, is not yet ready to order the shelter in place. That's a nice new word. Remember that word, shelter in place. That simply means don't leave your house. I mean, that's, martial law, if you will. Don't leave your house. We've seen it happen in the Bay Area. I think New York City, they're just delaying the inevitable, but we'll have to wait and see. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back after the break. 800-951-0592. I've got one phone line open. If you want gold, call us. We'll tell you what's out there, tell you what the price is. You tell us what you want to buy, and we'll get it handled for you. Silver, don't bother calling. There isn't any yet. I'll keep you updated. If you want to sell Silver Eagles, we're paying $2.50 over spot today. Yesterday it was $1.50. Now it's $2.50 over spot. If you're looking to sell some silver at 800-951-0592. Listen, there's a lot of things. Things are breaking very quickly. The president has just announced that they are enacting the Defense Production Act. The Defense Production Act. That was an act that was put into law September 8th, 1950, when the Korean War had started. It's a broad civil defense and war mobilization effort. This is allowing, I'm assuming this is going to allow the president to get the military out onto the streets. That's just my guess here. But he has enacted this today. Again, this was a law set up in the 1950, having to do with the start of the Korean War. As I have more details on it, I don't want to overstate or understate it, but it does allow for the president to mobilize the military. And obviously, I'm just assuming in context here that they're mobilizing the military to get them to enforce, is the word I'm looking for here, right? Enforcing these shelter-in-place laws. We saw Silicon Valley, the Bay Area, Oakland, San Francisco, Berkeley put that law into place. Right now, the mayor of New York City doesn't want to do it. I don't blame him. I get it, right? You don't want to do it. But it looks like it could be coming down the pipe. So the president announcing the Defense Production Act, he's authorized that, initialized that. The president also saying right now, and again, all of this is happening very, very quickly. He has ordered HUD to suspend all foreclosure evictions through the end of April. Again, I don't know. I'm assuming if you don't have a HUD loan, it doesn't apply. But these are the two biggest pieces of news right now. The president is having a press conference. The Dow is down 1,500 points now. This is the low of the day, 19,007. The S&P is approaching the timeout 7%. At 7%, if the S&P is down 7%, we'll have another 15-minute pause. Right now it's down a little over 6% at 155 points as the president has been speaking. Right now, that's all the news that I'm seeing, at least for this moment. Bernie Sanders has announced that he is suspending or is expected to announce that he's going to suspend his presidential campaign. New York City Transit, the public transit that runs the subways, announcing that they need a bailout. United Airlines came out this morning with a new update saying they're closing or stopping 85% of all international travel routes and 60% of all what I'll call continental here in the U.S., all U.S. routes by 60%. And we know, obviously, again, we don't need to beat the dead horse here. A huge jump in layoffs. How are these people going to get paid? I watch CNBC in the mornings now religiously because it seems like they're trying to help the White House and how much money they're going to need. And this morning they flat out said this, a $1.2 trillion, get a grip. We need way more than that. I don't know what way more than that is. The biggest thing is this $1,000 that they wanted to send out to people. It's not enough. I don't know how we're going to pay all of these people that aren't going to have jobs, that need access to food. Obviously the president allowing for the military to mobilize. My guess is, when you have the Treasury Secretary last night come out and talk about 20% unemployment, right? We're not kidding around now. And again, I don't care what you think about the virus, right? You could make the argument that, hey, even the worst case scenario, 1 million people in the United States would die. The vast majority of those being the elderly, versus having an unemployment rate of 20%. I don't know what's worse. But the financial cost, everything is broken down. The commercial debt markets, the Treasury, not the Treasury, excuse me, the Federal Reserve is trying to keep that market functioning. The junk debt market is completely broken. Right now, the rate for a loan in junk, 10% plus, with the Fed funds rate at 0. It's absolutely, there's no movement there. Boeing has no access to cash right now. They drew down that $13.8 billion credit line. I think they've already spent half of that $13 billion, or let's try to call it $14 billion. I don't think that Boeing gets to Friday with enough cash on hand. If they don't bail them out, you could see a 20% down day in the markets. You think about Boeing, and really it's not just Boeing. It's all the suppliers. By the way, Honda, BMW, they're suspending production, citing a huge drop in demand for autos. The big three, GM, Ford, Chrysler, Fiat, Chrysler, the UAW, they're going to go into what they're calling partial shutdowns, trying to keep people working. But if the demand's not there, eventually they've got to be laid off. The ports announcing that containers down huge at the ports, and I don't know if that's just the volume coming in, the volume going out. Nothing seems to be really in there. Volumes continue to decline at the ports as well, and we're starting to see this. And listen, it's a recession at best. Right? I want to have better news, but it's a recession at best. I really think that we need to start talking about a depression. I don't know how long of a depression, but there's a lot of false premises going on too. A lot of these cities and some in states as well are saying, hey, everything's shut for 2 weeks. or we're shutting the bars and the restaurants and the gyms for 2 weeks. That's not true. Right, it's going to be longer than that. I know they want to be hopeful, but if what if we're talking about, hey, listen, everything's shut until the end of April, and then all of a sudden you've got these horrific problems. A good friend of mine, he owns a bar, a very successful bar in this town in Phoenix. Devastation was the word he used. I went in and saw him yesterday. Complete devastation. His staff is devastated. He's trying to give people, some hours, a shift here or a shift there. But essentially, he's like, listen, I don't need 90% of my employees. He goes, the hard part is with just takeout, right, I can't pay my bills. And so I think we're going to see, again, sooner than later. I'm going to use Italy as the example. Italy suspended all mortgage or all evictions, and I suspended all making of mortgage payments. Right, Italy went full lockdown. Obviously, the Defense Production Act being enacted this morning kind of leads me to believe this could be exactly where the United States is heading. I said it yesterday. I wouldn't be shocked if by Friday all over every state, not just cities, but every state could have the bars, the restaurants, the gyms, all of those things closing. I don't know how these people will get paid. I don't know how big of a bailout would. I mean, is $3 trillion enough, or is it got to be $5 trillion? I don't know, but things have gotten very, very ugly. I think right now the first bailout, it has to be Boeing, and again, I don't think they can make it till Friday. If they don't bail them out, you're going to be looking at 20% hit. I think the stock market could close because it's down so much. This Treasury Secretary also stated last night that there is the potential for Wall Street to start running on a abbreviated schedule. In other words, we just can't it's too dangerous to keep these markets open. It's not functioning properly. Obviously, a lot of people want the stock market to close in general. I don't think that's a good idea either. That just prevents people from having access to where the majority of their wealth is. So if you're just joining us, and I'm watching these here, more headlines breaking. Vice President Pence is now asking hospitals to delay all elective procedures. So I'm assuming they're talking about, hey, knee replacements. I gotta get an ankle surgery, a hand surgery, something. If it's not a life-threatening thing, they're now asking hospitals to delay elective procedures, obviously to free up more hospital beds. As we said, HUD is going to suspend all foreclosures, evictions through the end of April. And the president invoked the Defense Production Act, and he is clarifying, in case we need it. And obviously somebody's told him, hey, we may need it. So that allows for the government to mobilize the troops. I'll make a call to my brother and see if he can, my brother's a lieutenant colonel, or actually lieutenant colonel, he's a colonel. A colonel in the reserves there in Illinois. I'll see what happens there. People now talking about potentially banning buybacks of stock. You think about, we got to bail out Boeing. We got to bail out the airlines. We got to bail out the oil industry. Now we got to bail out the transit systems of New York and, probably Chicago and California and all the rest of them. And you're sitting there and you're thinking about, we gave them this gift of tax cuts, and all as these companies did was buy back their own stock, and now they need us to bail them out. So I can understand that. Mark Cuban was on the air saying any company that needs a bailout because of the virus or any other thing should be banned from buybacks forever. I think, well, and this is the thing, too. A lot of people don't know this. Buybacks weren't legal in the 80s. It's another one of these laws that was changed that makes the stock market more risky. And so now we're seeing, Sanders is updating and saying it's false, that he is suspending his campaign. So we'll keep you posted there. I apologize. The markets are moving very, very quickly here as we're trying to come to grips with what exactly is happening. The commercial markets, the investment grade market, there is some activity there. Obviously, the central bank stepped in with that $1 trillion. The junk markets are completely broken. Nobody is willing to lend anyone any money. Crude oil now down even more now. So crude oil down 18%, getting ready to go below $22. As I said, Halliburton already announcing furloughs and layoffs, and it's coming everywhere. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back right after the break.
This is the Phyllis Schlafly Report, presenting a daily conservative pro-family perspective since 1983 and continuing the legacy of Phyllis Schlafly. Now, here's the president of Phyllis Schlafly Eagles, Ed Martin.
Liberals are great at the art of the long con. They look far down the field when they choose policy priorities. Illegal immigration is a great example of this. Democrats spent decades doing everything in their power to import illegal aliens into America. They pushed amnesty for illegals, public assistance for illegals, and every other imaginable incentive. At the same time, they vigorously fought any effort to deport criminal illegals. They fought efforts to recognize English as our national language, and they've refused to build a wall on the southern border. Think about it. When was the last time you heard a Democrat raise concerns about the national debt for any reason other than to stop a wall from being built? Clearly, there's a deeper strategy at work here. Meanwhile, conservatives have too often stood by and let all this happen because wealthy establishment Republicans enjoy the cheap labor from illegal workers. That deal with the devil might come back to haunt Americans this very year. As you may already know, 2020 is a census year. That means everyone in America is to be counted according to Article 1, Section 2 of our U.S. Constitution. This counting will determine how many representatives each state gets in Congress, as well as how many votes each state gets in the Electoral College. This means control of 2 out of the 3 branches depends on the outcome of our census. Now Democrats are unmasking the real goal of their illegal immigration strategy. The Supreme Court ruled that the census could not ask residents if they're citizens or not. All these illegals that Democrats have been ushering past our borders can now bolster the political capital of liberal strongholds like California. This isn't what the Founding Fathers had in mind when they designed the U.S. Census. If we're going to fix the problems of the census, we have to fix our immigration policy. We need a wall on our southern border, and we need it right now. These illegals have disenfranchised legal American voters for long enough. It's time we took a stand for the constitutional rule of law. The Democrats' long con should be put to a stop today.
This has been the Phyllis Schlafly Report from Phyllis Schlafly Eagles. Can activist judges be stopped, or will they continue to overturn laws with no regard for the Constitution or the will of the people? Connect with us at phyllisschlafly.com to hear alerts on rulings made by never-elected supremacist judges and to share your viewpoint. That's phyllisschlafly.com. Thanks for listening, and join us again for the Phyllis Schlafly Report.
800-951-0592. U.S. $20 gold pieces right now are $1,700. Excuse me, I had to move my paper. $1,785. $10 pieces are at $900. $5 pieces at $470. At 800-951-0592. We've closed the border with Canada. A mutual decision. If you are a U.S. citizen, you are not a Canadian citizen, you are not allowed to cross the border into Canada. Again, that was a mutual decision. Still no border word on closing the border to the south, but that happened also this morning. Amazon says that it will only be shipping household and medical supply items because there's just too much demand. Amazon vendors now are saying that aren't in those categories are saying that they're going to start laying off people again. So this is this cascading effect in the jobs market. Again, we're still waiting on a stimulus of some sort from the government. We're now anticipating at least $3 trillion worth of spending. Think about this. We're going to have, the deficit's almost 24 trillion. We're 23 trillion, 500 some billion. We're almost at 24 trillion. That would put us, north of 27 trillion. By 2021, we'll hit 30 trillion. This is, it's incredible. The 10-year note. Remember last week I played Jeff Gunletch, and this is why the guy's the best and why I tell you to heed his advice. And, of course, he was on the air telling you buy gold. But he told you what the bond market was going to do. And obviously we went all the way down to 0.3%. The 10-year note got all the way back to 1.2 this morning. And why is that important? Because they're starting to realize the scope and the magnitude of what this is going to cost and the huge influx of treasuries that's going to be needing to be bought. Foreign governments, the January numbers came out, continued to be net sellers in the treasury markets. 700 billion in QE is not going to be enough. I would not be surprised to see the United States post a $3 to $4 trillion budget deficit fiscal year 2020. I would not be surprised. As a matter of fact, I'm telling you, I think this is best case scenarios. We could hit 30 trillion in debt by 2021. I expect the Fed's balance sheet to be approaching 10 trillion as well. So add that to it. J.P. Morgan, this was in the Wall Street Journal this morning. J.P. Morgan, and this is the problem with these banks. I'm sorry, but your money's not safe there. Authorities are investigating whether traders at J.P. Morgan Chase manipulated the markets for Treasury securities and futures contracts, according to regulator disclosures and people familiar with the matter. Again, we've seen this over and over. There's not a market these guys don't rip you off. The same thing. This was a spoofing deal. We've seen it in the precious metals markets. We've seen it in all the markets. Regulators and other authorities cracked down on spoofing after after the financial crisis. And of course, now they're saying J.P. Morgan was at it again, this time in the Treasury markets. And I don't know what to say about it. If you want it to stop, you could stop it very easily. Hey, the next time it happens, the CEO, you're out. All the board members are out, right? Whoever's department it happened in, right? I don't care if you knew about it, didn't know about it, you're out, right? We could end it immediately. It could stop tomorrow. But the problem is it's profitable for these banks, and they know that they're not going to do anything about, I'll pay a fine, and the fine's always less than what I made. And how are we supposed to have confidence that we're supposed to put our money in there and have it be safe, right? And there's, the same guys that have told us, put all your money into Wall Street, and we're just getting an absolute bloodbath right now. Getting closer, we're down 6.5% on the S&P, and the S&P is the breaker, if you will. If we get to 7% down, Wall Street will close for 15 minutes. The Dow is down 7.5%, 19,600 on the Dow. So we are about 800 Dow points away from where President Trump was on Inauguration Day. He's in there. We're essentially just wiping it out. So the last 3.5 years essentially didn't count. And here's the problem. is now these ridiculous amounts of debt that these companies took on looks horrible now. It didn't look that bad at 28,000, 29,000. But now all of a sudden, the S&P was getting ready to go to 3,500. The S&P right now is 2,300 and change. Now all of these things are, we talk about Boeing's done. Boeing's done. They need a bailout. The airlines, all of the airlines, they're all done. Now, whether or not, it was their fault, not their fault, is irrelevant. All of these companies just simply didn't have the money. They just put it into their stocks. That's all they're doing. And so when you're sitting there thinking about all of this stuff, it's hard to understand how low are we talking about? Where are we going? I think where Trump got elected, that number's done. Yesterday I talked about potentially 14,000, the old high before the financial crisis. And obviously you got to mention the low, which was, 6,700. That's a distinct possibility because I don't see how we get a V-shaped recovery if everybody's being laid off. Right? If they're being laid off, if their hours are being cut and all of these things, they don't have the money to get that bounce back. So we're going to have to wait and see. Not really sure if we're going to get any more announcements out of the White House. Trump says, here you go, right on cue. Trump says size of checks to Americans to be determined, but wants to go big. So this is the checks that they're talking about. We've heard $1,000. This now coming out of the president seems like that's going to be a bigger number. Trump says he doesn't agree with the 20% unemployment scenario. I kind of do, unless we do something about it. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back after the break. $800-951-0592. U.S. $20 Liberties, $17.85. $10 Liberties at $900. $5 Liberties at $470. At 800-951-0592. Silver, I don't have any silver available at the moment. Be careful out there. I'm going to just issue a warning to all of you. I want you to do business with me. We're going to, we've been doing this almost 25 years. We're going to treat you honestly. We're going to treat you fairly. You're not going to get ripped off. I've warned over and over, and Eric used to warn you over and over, don't buy from the guys on TV. Don't buy from the guys that got Brian Kilmeade or Michael Savage or Bill O'Reilly as their sponsors. No, they're not the guys they trust. They just get paid to read on the page. One of those, the sponsor of Michael Savage, ran a live ad yesterday offering junk silver $half for $28 an ounce. It's just disgusting. Be careful. Just call us. We're going to take good care of you with someone. Silver becomes available, we'll let you know. And at we'll a much more reasonable price. You got silver right now at $11.85, and you got companies out there that want to charge you $28 an ounce. And they won't lose a lick of sleep over it either. And they'll have a guy that you trust and like tell you, hey, what a great company they are, because they just write them a check. So be careful. Just stick with us. We're going to take good care of you, I promise. 800-951-0592. And we'll have silver available, and it'll be a whole lot less than $28 an ounce. So just hang in there. I know you want to get your hands on it. I get it, right? You don't need, again, we say, hey, don't panic about the coronavirus. Don't panic about silver. We've seen this before, right? Silver's been out of stock before. It'll come back. Will the premiums be higher? Yes. Are you going to have to pay, $4 or $5 or $6 over spot? Maybe for a little while, maybe. But that doesn't mean you go out there and you pay $25, $26, $27, $28, $29, $30 an ounce. So don't let them do that to you. And if you got questions or concerns, call us here at 800-951-0592. Like I said, old gold is there's not huge quantities, but quantities are out there, and we are selling them. Gold Eagles are out of stock, and all the 10th ounce Gold Eagles are out of stock. Silver, everything, silver round, silver bars, right? It's jug silver has all been bought up, but resist the urge to get ripped off and wait for us to tell you, hey, we've got some, and then you can jump on it then. 800-951-0592. Trump says he sees no reason to suspend tariffs over the coronavirus. Again, all of this is breaking. Says that the size of the check, now they told us the other day, hey, within 2 weeks, we're going to have checks out to people. Has yet to be determined, but he does want to go big. And the problem is these people need more than one check. If you're going to be laid off, and let's face it, right, and nobody's hiring. I mean, Amazon says they're going to hire 100,000 people. Okay, well, that's great, but we're talking about 20 million people could be losing their jobs. It really isn't going to help. These people aren't going to find work. They're going to need a lot more than one check to get them over the hump. But again, we'll have to wait and see how all of this is playing out. Mitch McConnell is hoping for a vote at 2 p.m. So we can maybe, and I don't know if it's even about the checks, right? Again, there's so many different things happening, so many different bailouts that are approaching here. I'm not sure exactly what vote they're taking at 2 p.m. today, but it's going to be some kind of money authorization coming out of Congress. Quick look here at the 10-year note. Like I said, the 10-year note going the wrong way. Right now it's been as low as 1.2% at 1.13%. And look at that to go higher. Put it this way, Japanese yields, which have been negative for like the last 4 or 5 years, has gone positive. German yields, German Bund yields, which was negative 6 7/10, is down to negative 0.2. So this is the exact opposite. This is kind of what we've been worrying about, is they want to try to force the bond market lower, but there's so much debt out there that eventually the bond market says, hey, we don't care what you want. You're spending too much. This is too much debt. It can't be sustained. And you see interest rates going the other way. Obviously, that's not good news for the housing market, which means mortgage rates are going to rise. But again, we'll see how long this lasts. And as the news breaks, I'll try to get it out to you. Final segment coming up here, Patriot Radio News Hour. Tough day. 800-951-0592. Guggenheimer is saying that business bailouts, $2 trillion is the number, according to Guggenheimer. Way worse than the bailouts for the banks. And of course, the problem, I've been telling you, the bubble was in the debt markets of the publicly traded companies. That's where the bubble was. If you just joined us, the president was giving a live press conference, and they invoked the Defense Production Act. As I told everybody before, this act was created in the 50s during the Korean War. Its primary source of the presidential authorities to expedite and expand the supply of resources for the U.S. industrial base to support military, energy, space, and homeland security programs. Homeland security programs eligible for this support include efforts to counter terrorism within the United States. Obviously, that's not why they invoked it. Emergency preparedness activities conducted pursuant to Title VI of the Stanford Act. I think somebody right here on this station, right at the time that I'm talking, well, it was me, told you that the Stanford Act, I didn't think it would go till Friday. Here it is. Protection and restoration of critical infrastructure and continuity of the government. So that is the act that was invoked today. It allow FEMA is now going to be deployed everywhere, and we're getting ready. Looks like the stock market's going to shut down here. The Dow is at the lows of the day, down 1,620, 19,600. That is now below where the level was when the president was inaugurated. Still not below yet where the election was at. Still got about 800 points to go there. The S&P is down 6.9%, down 175. If it gets to 7%, they'll invoke a 15-minute pause. The S&P at 23,052. The NASDAQ is down almost 500 points. Crude oil's down 17% at just over $22. Gold's down $35 at $14.90. Silver is down 60 cents at $11.87. And again, don't be too alarmed. Paper markets, they need cash. This is how liquid, they try to tell you too, oh, gold's not liquid and blah, blah, blah. This is how liquid it is. Just incredible what gold and silver have been able to do. It's the one place these guys know they can go and sell and actually get money because they're sitting on bonds from insurance companies. They're sitting on bonds from corporations, and nobody wants to buy them. So they've got to sell what they can. I think, yeah, there it is. Okay, so the Dow is shut down. The Wall Street is shut down here. We're going to take a 15-minute pause. We'll see what happens after trading resumes. And remember what I said. If they don't bail out Boeing by the time Friday rolls around, we'll be well below the Trump inauguration, or not inauguration, the Trump win, the Trump election win, which was, like 18-8? We'll be well below that. Patriot Radio News Hour. Get your gold orders in while there's still some of that available. 800-951-0592. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back tomorrow. Everyone take care and be safe out there. Don't panic, and we'll get through it.